mentioned, we're talking health this morning, and we have with us the Honorable Minister for Health and Social Security, Nickolas Steele, as well as the Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Shawn Charles. Without any further ado, I will hand you over to the Honorable Minister. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Les, and good morning to all of our viewers and listeners out there. As always, it is a pleasure and an honor to be with you. Today is no different. I have the distinct pleasure of announcing on yesterday's cabinet meeting was an in-person cabinet meeting for the first time since the COVID outbreak, since we had stopped meeting in person, and it is as a result of us being fully vaccinated. So we were able to meet in person, and this is for us, and I think for everyone, a signal of us getting closer and closer back to normalcy, or back to life as we would prefer to say. Arrangements are ongoing with respect to the upcoming cricket as well as the football, and we expect to announce, to finalize probably today or tomorrow for the football and the ability for them to have fully vaccinated spectators at the upcoming very interesting and exciting matches. Also, over the weekend, we were fortunate to be in a position to pay forward, and that is that we had received 17,000 vaccines from the government and people of India, which was sent to the region, and we were able to, at the request of the Prime Minister of Trinidad, to share 10,000 of those vaccines with the government and people of Trinidad, our neighbors. We continue to watch and keep them in our thoughts and prayers. In fact, based on their Ministry of Health update, since the 12th of March, Trinidad has 23,638 positive cases of COVID-19. And unfortunately, as of yesterday, they've had 495 deaths. They are averaging 10 deaths per day from COVID-19. We keep them in our thoughts and prayers, and we hope that this serves as a wake-up call for us and the need for us to, as quickly as possible, get vaccinated. We received an additional 21,600 doses of vaccines last week, AstraZeneca vaccines. I know the question will come, so I will give the details from the point of view of the expiration dates of those vaccines. Those vaccines that we recently received expire on or around the 31st of August, which means that for all of us here in Grenada to access those vaccines in a timely manner, we have till the middle of June in which to come forward and take the vaccine and still have your full 10 weeks to take your second dose. Delaying beyond the middle of June means that you are locking yourself into taking the second dose 9, 8, 7, or 6 weeks, which is still viable. But ideally, you would like to take your vaccine between 8 and 10 weeks. It is just as effective taken on the 6th week or so. So that is what I would like to address, and I'm open to any questions or concerns anyone may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Shawn Charles, some quick words from you.
Good morning. So, overall, Grenada continues to enjoy a period of calm. This week, as the previous, we have no new cases to announce. In fact, our last positive case was recorded on 24th of April, thereabouts. We have no active cases in isolation, and of course we continue to receive large numbers of travelers. So at present, we have about 475 persons at various stages of the quarantine process. We are aware that the public, sensing that our atmosphere has remained relatively safe for the past weeks, and naturally persons have relaxed to some extent. In some instances, to a degree that may be described as reckless. We note the increase in the uptake in the number of social activities, increase in gatherings. We note that some of the guidelines that we've given with regards to distancing and so on are not being followed. The wearing of masks is almost non-existent in many instances. Additionally, vaccine uptake could be better. All right, it's less than what we would like. To date, we have administered 26,512 doses, of which 17,735 are first doses and 8,777 are second doses. So we have 8,777 persons who are fully vaccinated, and that's just about 8% of the overall population. So we're still far off. In addition, we have to consider that today is the start of the hurricane season, and that comes with its own challenges. So it's another factor that we must consider. And we have the issues of controls at our borders, because as Grenada continues to be a safe place to be, then more persons would want to come in here. Some will do so via the legal route, and others will do it via the clandestine route. And this is a challenge that we're also dealing with. At present, we have to redouble our efforts, because we know that this global pandemic continues to rage on. We see worrying signs coming from some countries, such as the UK, that are seeing an upsurge in particular the variant from the UK. This pandemic is far from over, so we have to continue to be careful. So we will continue to request of the public to be mindful of the protocols and to adhere to them, because health security is important. The reason why we are able to have some measure of comfort is because of all the measures to ensure that we are secure health-wise, and we should really guard that with our dear lives. And once again, I want to encourage persons to get vaccinated. We continue to offer vaccines every weekday, and I want to continue to encourage persons to go out there and get their shots. Yes.
Let me just add one thing. We just before coming onto the air, we got information that there is one individual who apparently came into Grenada illegally from Trinidad via Carriacou. by boat. His family is from the New Hampshire area. He is still at large, and we're asking individuals who may have information to come forward to the nearest police station or health center. The individual apparently came in on Saturday, from the information we have, via a vessel or speedboat to Carriacou, then to Grenada, and is from the New Hampshire area.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, CMO. Colleagues, any questions from you?
Yes, I have two questions.
Go right ahead.
Okay. I know CMO, you recently spoke about numbers for the week, and that will be the larger numbers, but I'm asking, what are the numbers like as it relates to persons getting their first shot within the week gone? I know last week you would have said that you saw an increase, and is the number still going higher, or do you see a decline in it? And also, Minister Steele, could you tell me what are some of the guidelines established for events, such as the football and the bingo, compared to events like dance and little parties and little dance hall and stuff like that? Can you tell us about that?
Well, maybe I can try and address both. With respect to in the last half of last week and into this week so far, there has been a drop off in individuals coming forward. We're averaging somewhere about 150 to 250 persons per day coming forward to be vaccinated, where previously in the week before we were seeing 800 to 1,000 persons per day. And we are hoping that that will change, and we will see an uptake. With respect to what's different with the protocols, up until now, individuals who wanted to have a party or event, it would be limited in number, and the social protocols or distance protocols would be in place in terms of wearing of the masks, unless persons were seated at tables or seated at the bar or consuming, drinking or eating and moving around. It was expected that persons would be moving around with their mask on. For the events coming up, because all those who will be entering are fully vaccinated and therefore not at risk, therefore individuals would be expected to be able to move around freely, and quite likely, if they so chose, not to wear the mask. We still recommend that you do, because you're only going to be in that event for a couple of hours. So that is why it is still recommended, but individuals at those events can feel safe that they are among other persons, or all other persons around them are fully vaccinated.
That's it for you, Rena. Nancy McGuire, good morning.
Good morning. Can Dr. Charles speak a bit about the duration between the first and second dose of the AstraZeneca? I have read that if the time is less, the effectiveness is less. Can you clarify that, please? And these events that are requiring fully vaccinated, what about people that have a test that shows they're negative? Would they be considered? And finally, you had mentioned, Minister, that the inspection of quarantine facilities had commenced. Do you have anything to report there? Thank you.
So, as it relates to the first question, it is recommended that the interval between the first and second dose be as low as 4 weeks to upwards of 12 weeks. All right, so the recommendation is between 4 to 12 weeks. However, it was shown that the immune boost that you receive, or the level of immunity of protection that you receive, is better when the second dose is delayed and is taken closer to the 12th week as opposed to closer to the 4th week. Now, we have used different intervals, right, but always obeying this time period, and we have used them for different reasons. When we just started, we were around 8 to 10 weeks because we had time. All right, we had the luxury of time. But as the vaccines got closer to their date of expiry, then you no longer have the luxury of time. So some individuals might have gotten around 6 weeks. All right, but always the second dose must be administered at least 4 weeks after the first dose, all the way up to 12 weeks. It would be ideal if we had enough vaccines and we can offer everyone the opportunity to get it 12 weeks. But unfortunately, because of the shelf life of the vaccines, sometimes we need to adjust the date for the second dose so that persons can get the vaccines before they expire.
At this point in time, while we recognize that at the point when somebody takes a test, in other words, on that day, at that hour, they would test negative, because an individual not fully vaccinated can easily acquire the disease immediately afterwards, the virus immediately afterwards, that it's still a relatively high risk. This is our first effort to have events with that are safe, large-scale events, or to allow large-scale events that are safe, and as such, these events will be for fully vaccinated individuals. On the inspection of facilities, the deadline was today. So by the end of today, the CMO and will inform me of those sites that did not meet the criteria for having 100% of their employees at least first dose vaccinated as of today. So any of the sites that don't meet that criteria would receive notice that they will no longer be allowed. They would have a fixed period in which to remedy this, a couple of days to remedy this, otherwise they will no longer be allowed to be quarantine sites.
Thank you. Linda Straker, good morning. Linda, are you there? Good morning.
Yes, good morning. That's what unmuted. Good morning to you, Les, and the Minister for Health, as well as Dr. Shawn. Minister, I noted with concern, well, not concern, I observed that yesterday in a press release from the GIS, said that the Cabinet has met in person for the first time. And this was done in accordance with what the CDC guidelines. Can you tell us whose guidelines Grenada is following? Are we following WHO, the US, the UK, or Canada? Because I ask that because the in-person meeting is one thing. The CDC has also said that persons who are vaccinated shouldn't wear masks. And now you don't know who is vaccinated or not vaccinated. Everybody is not wearing masks. So are we going to see Grenada moving to say, do not wear masks because we're following the CDC guidelines? My second question is, Dr. Shawn said that we're seeing, I use the term illegal, coming through clandestine means. Are we facing a constant growing of illegals through persons who are coming into Grenada, and ministry and all the authorities have to work together to put a curb to that? Is there, I know that earlier this year the police did say that we would have seen a massive jump almost what was done. Illegals who was caught for the entire year for 2020 was almost the same in the first quarter. Is there a constant growing of persons who are entering Grenada through clandestine means? And my third question for now is regard to Carnival. We are now in June. We have started June. Earlier this year, the Prime Minister said there will be no formal Carnival. What happened last year was Grenada, the Parliament would have repealed a section of the law to ensure that there is legally no Carnival for 2020. Are we going to see Parliament also giving approval to no formal Carnival for the year 2021? And if yes, how soon? That's it for now. I do have other questions. I'll ask the next round.
Yep, Linda, yesterday's release by GIS said, based on CDC as well as the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Health observes the various recommendations from numerous entities, CDC being one, CDC, Public Health Canada, NHS or Public Health authorities of the UK, Europe, as well as the WHO and Pan American Health. We choose the best practices from all. So not everything the CDC says do we follow. For instance, the CDC's recommendations with respect to persons traveling and the quarantine that they spend when they come back to the US is different to ours. We take a more cautious route there. Individuals who met yesterday met in person but met with their masks on as an added security. So that is basically the principle we pick best practices from based on an analysis of our own individual risk here in Grenada, our own epidemiological situation. So with respect to CDC saying fully vaccinated persons no longer need to wear the mask in public, we have not gone that route because in the US, 30%, upwards of 30% of the population are now fully vaccinated. In Grenada, 8% of the population are now fully vaccinated. So it's not just a clear statement. You have to look at the CDC making statements for the United States based on the United States current situation and their ability to deal with any and all of the risks and other issues surrounding COVID-19, their health response, the level of the amount of hospital beds they have and the care that they can give. We have to take into consideration here in Grenada our unique situation and make decisions based on that. So at this point in time, it is still not appropriate for us to say that fully vaccinated persons should not or don't have to wear the mask in public because only 8% of the population are fully vaccinated. As I said, we have one case of someone at large based on information that we have received. So yes, and we have constantly said that it is a constant threat. This is not the first time that we've had individuals trying to breach. In fact, last week we also had an individual trying to forge their vaccination card coming from the US. So we are constantly at threat. Individuals are constantly trying to circumnavigate and get around the various restrictions that we put in place to keep us safe and them safe. But still, some individuals try to breach it or believe that they are above it. So we are constantly at risk. Someone coming in who is not fully vaccinated, pretending to be vaccinated, they will be charged. And also, we would give serious consideration because that individual would be forging a US document, a CDC document, that we would also report them to the US authorities. And there are very severe fines in the US as well. So the person might end up finding themselves being charged here in Grenada, and then when they return to the US also being charged. I have no comment or information on that in terms of repealing. I know that we have said at this point in time it is not practical for us to consider, but I think it is in the hands of the public. It is for us to decide how soon we can get back to normalcy. It is for us to decide how soon we will get vaccinated, those who are holding off. and it is for us to decide when we look at other countries that are now going way ahead of us, the UK and the US in particular, and some of our other OECS and CARICOM islands to the north of us, with respect to their rate of vaccinations. They will get back to life faster than us. They may have their crop overs or their carnivals sooner than we will, because we will remain at risk because of the level of vaccinations. But Dr. Charles, myself, Les, we have all taken our vaccines. We have all done our part. We have all contributed to making this country safe. In fact, everybody here in the room has been fully vaccinated. We have all done our part. We are ready to get back to normal. It is for the rest of us. This is a democracy. It is for the rest of us to decide when all of us can get back to normalcy, because we're all in this together, and if we do not get the relevant level of vaccinations, we cannot remove that risk. It's not just about getting back to normalcy. The risk remains of infections of, as you see in Trinidad, 20 persons per day dying. That risk still exists here in Grenada, with one person sneaking in. We have one individual that came in from, we just said, we're looking for someone that came in from Trinidad. If that person happens to be positive with that strain and has been at large since Saturday, then we quite likely have lost control of the situation. And that individual would have infected enough individuals by now to cause an outbreak here in Grenada. It only takes one. We've said that consistently. It only takes one. However, if that individual were interacted with persons who were fully vaccinated, then we are safe and we can breathe easily. So it's up to us, members of the public. The Ministry of Health and the Royal Grenada Police Force are doing everything possible, but individuals will try to, and in some instances, as is apparent over the weekend, someone successfully came into Grenada illegally from a country where there is right now a significant outbreak of COVID-19.
Thank you, Minister.
Minister, just for clarity, there are times from my end, your volume just go right down. So I am kind of lost as to the person who would have forged. Is it somebody from Trinidad or is it somebody who came in from another part of the world? Is it two different situations we're dealing with? And can you just share some more about that forging document? Was a returning national? Was it a visitor? Probably the sex of the person and the age and so forth?
It's a male. It's two separate incidents. It's a male individual who has Grenadian as well as U.S. citizenship, and when he came in, he forged the date, or we know for a fact that he forged the date at which he got vaccinated in order to qualify for the 48-hour quarantine period. And we are investigating as to whether he forged the entire document or not. But he is being accused. We have information to show that he forged the date of his vaccination, or his second dose vaccination.
Where is that person now?
That person is in quarantine.
That's it for the time, Linda. Callistra, good morning.
But I still didn't get the clarity on the person out of Trinidad. It really went down low.
Yeah, we have information that says that an individual came in, which again, Linda, is a separate incident. An individual came in on Saturday via speedboat from Trinidad to Carriacou, then to Grenada, and the person is still at large. The information that we have says that the person is originally from the New Hampshire area. That is information we have at present, and we're asking persons to come forward with information, if they do have it, to the Royal Grenada Police Force or the Ministry of Health.
You got that, Linda?
I get it, and it's very serious.
Yeah, all right, good. Callistra Faria, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Leslie. Minister, regarding quarantine facilities, state-approved quarantine facilities, can you provide some clarity on how those facilities are listed on the Ministry of Health website? I received some information, and the Board of Tourism the Grenada Tourism Authority has said that the Ministry of Health has been slow in uploading the approved facilities after the inspection and approval of the upgrades that are done to in line with COVID protocols. So can you give some clarity on who can get on the Ministry of Health website as a state-approved quarantine facility?
Kalisha, there are two lists. The GTA has a list of facilities that the GTA approves as tourism facilities that persons can stay at, whether stay while in quarantine or after quarantine or for home stay or so. The Ministry of Health has a list of sites that are approved for quarantine, which is different. And there's an additional security requirement, and for instance, as of today, is the requirement for fully vaccinated team members to be there, that all persons at that site, working at that site or visiting that site must be fully vaccinated. So there are two different lists because there are two different criterias.
Any other from you, Kalistra?
So when a site is visited by tourism and health officials and the checks are done and approval is given, that means that you can either be a state-approved facility or just another regular facility where people can stay in Grenada.
That is correct, yes. So if the site meets the approval of if the site meets the approval of the GTA, it is approved by the GTA and it will be listed on the GTA website as approved sites in Grenada. There is an additional criteria from the Ministry of Health, and once that site meets that criteria, only then is it listed there. So you can have sites that are, and you will again have more sites now, regrettably, in the next week or so, that will fall off the list of the Ministry of Health because they are not fully vaccinated, but still will remain on the list for the GTA. In other words, individuals can stay there after they have cleared their quarantine. Or those of us here in Grenada can choose to homestay, to do a staycation at one of those sites. So that's the difference in the criteria.
But when a facility meets all of the criteria and they meet the standard for being a state-approved site, what does it take to have them listed with the Ministry of Health? Because entry requirements dictates that you make bookings. You can't get entry into Grenada without prior bookings. But if a facility is not listed with the Ministry of Health, then it's not an option for travelers, incoming travelers.
The sites that meet the criteria for quarantine sites are listed on the Ministry of Health website as quarantine sites. The sites that meet the criteria for GTA for simple accommodations, not necessarily quarantine sites, are listed on the GTA site. I think it is clear those that are approved by the Ministry of Health to be quarantine sites are on the Ministry of Health quarantine site list.
That's it, Kalistra?
Yes, for now. I was curious about the carnival situation. Someone else asked it, but the minister's audio is so low that I am barely hearing anything he says. So that is posing a problem for follow-up questions.
Kalisha, I would say that I am also curious about the carnival situation. As of all of us, we look with I would say great, I want to pick the right word here, caution, and we do hope that it is not again an event that can put us at risk, because the global and regional situation has changed significantly. So let us consider where we had someone sneak in over the weekend. If that person snuck in over a carnival weekend and participated in one of the illegal events that similarly happened last carnival or happening now, happened over this weekend. We saw, I'm sure many persons saw pictures over social media of events that were happening that most definitely were not approved and didn't follow any protocols. If you have one person that snuck in and visited that, we lose control. It is not going to be possible for the Ministry of Health at that point to contain the outbreak, because they would have interacted with just too many people in one single occasion for us to in a timely manner do the contact tracing. And that is what we are constantly saying, that all we need is a combination of the person sneaking in and one of those events and the person being present there, and that's all it takes. That's all it took in Barbados when they had their outbreak. That's all it took in Trinidad right now, and it continues in Trinidad. That's all it takes in any of the islands where there was an outbreak, for the combination of a positive case being in the public domain in a large-scale event.
Okay, Nancy Maguire, you have other questions, and then we go to Linda. Nancy?
Yes, thank you. I didn't quite hear at the beginning. The minister said that we have paid in advance for 17,000 doses from India, and we shared 10,000 with Trinidad. Is that correct? And are those AstraZeneca? And I thought India had stopped shipping. But my question for Dr. Charles is, one of the common reasons when we ask people why they won't get vaccinated is they do not want to put some foreign substance in their body. What do you have to say to that? Thank you.
Nancy, let me address the first part, which we received donations from India in February. This was before they stopped exporting. And yes, it is AstraZeneca. AstraZeneca Covishield, the same vaccine, but manufactured in India. Barbados received, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, Antigua, and Dominica received from India. Since then, yes, you are right, the Indian government has stopped the export so that they can deal with their own domestic problem, and those were donations. We did not pay for those vaccines.
As it relates to the question or the comment about foreign substance, we take medicines every day for different conditions that we do not consider foreign. We eat foods, we drink different beverages that we do not consider foreign. So I think it is one of those excuses that might be convenient to state, but I would just state that vaccines go through a rigorous process of development to ensure that they are both safe and effective before they are allowed to be marketed to the public. In fact, this is the process for developing medicines in general. So I would urge the persons who would think that way to think about all of the substances that they interact with every day, and think about the fact that we use medicines every day to address different ailments that we may suffer. All right, and I would challenge them to change that perception that they have.
GVN, good morning. You have other questions? Further questions?
Yes, I have two more questions. Minister or CMO, could you tell me what about the numbers for weddings and funerals? Have that changed, or are you expecting anything, or is it going to be the same? And as it relates to the events, would you be having a similar protocol as it relates to what you're having now for the hotels? Would you be putting out lists as to the places that are approved and how much numbers or number of persons that can be at some of the events as a plan of curbing delinquency?
Yeah, let me take it from the last, going back, that yes, we would, same way we have just announced that for football and for the cricket, and there are others who have applied, and I would think that they would get their approval shortly. So yes, we would be giving a list, or they would be able to say that they are verified and they are approved by the Ministry of Health and the Royal Grenada Police Force. With respect to the size for funerals and weddings, that too is changing, and it is determined by the size of the event, the location of the event, sorry, i.e. the size of the church, or the size of the hall or place that the event is being carried out. And also this week, for the first time, we had a request where the individual said that all of the persons that were going to be at the wedding, or the gathering, sorry, a family gathering, were fully vaccinated, and therefore they were asking for that waiver on the numbers, and it was given. So I think we will see that changing in terms of persons making requests for gatherings, for events, for funerals, for weddings, and being able to say that everyone in the wedding party is fully vaccinated, or all persons that are going to be present are fully vaccinated. There's going to be almost an automatic approval or consideration on that, because the risk level is not there.
Just a quick follow-up. Would these lists be made public?
The list of events? Yes,
Yes, for the
yes,
events.
the list of events would be made public in coordination with the promoters. We would have that placed. As that list gets larger and larger, or more frequent, I think it would just be more of a certification, in the same way that places, way back when we began opening up social places, restaurants, bars, nightclubs, etc. We gave them the approval. We didn't print a list, and we monitored. So anyone who was advertising an event at a location that was not approved was doing so against the law, and in most instances they were shut down, or they were charged, or the police dealt with them appropriately. So in the beginning, for the larger events, we will be making announcements for clarity for the general public. But then all of the other smaller gatherings or requests that we have had, we won't necessarily make a public announcement on that. We're making the announcement with respect to football and cricket because it is a large national event, and it is the first one. But the other events, as we proceed, that would get approval, would be we'd work in combination with the CMO RGPF to give them that approval for their events, and they would do the appropriate marketing and so for the event. And those events will be monitored by Ministry of Health wardens as well as RGPF.
Linda Straker, you have other questions?
Yes, thanks. My question is two questions actually. Minister, last week we were in a news conference. We were told that only fully vaccinated persons will be able to go in to enjoy the cricket at the National Stadium. Is this a mandate from the organizers of the cricket games itself that Grenada has to comply with, or is it something that the Grenada, the Ministry of Health has decided that would be our mandate? So whose mandate is it that only fully vaccinated persons will be allowed? Secondly, I know normally when we have cricket during them school period, students are allowed. Would students be allowed to still go to this game selectively, as I think it should be? Would students be allowed to at least have some enjoyment directly at the games? And then the third and final question, if not anything else, probably I'll have to find you somewhere else during the daytime. I'm quite taken aback with that reference you made of the person who would arrive in Caracol via speedboat. How did the Grenada Authority was alerted? Is it an alert from Trinidad, or it is somebody who would have observed that? And is there an official investigation or manhunt on for that person? Because I can't recall. I went quickly and looked at my email. I haven't seen the police say, we are in search of this person. Is there a name? Is there a sex? A picture of that person that the wider public now could say, yeah, I see this person and I love the authorities.
Yeah, Linda, with respect to the fully vaccinated events, it was done in combination, but Grenada, Government of Grenada, Ministry of Health, we set the criteria for what's going on in Grenada. There is coordination or communication with Cricket West Indies, for instance, on this, but our regulations and so must be met, and our conditions must be met. And in this instance, fortunately for us both, we were able to agree on that. Same with GFA, and I'm assuming GFA with their conversations with FIFA or CONCACAF or whoever they are communicating with for the upcoming matches. Unfortunately, in this instance, because we are currently in a global pandemic and the risks of COVID-19, and to maintain the protocol that only fully vaccinated persons can enter, it is simply that, only fully vaccinated persons. So if we have students who are 18 years and over and have been fully vaccinated, then yes, they can enter. But the criteria is based on the medical risk or epidemiological situation, and only fully vaccinated persons can enter the stadium for those events. And you had a third question there. Let's help me there. Yes, the person who came in illegally, we are making the announcement that a person did. It is with respect to the name and pictures, and so I leave that to the RGPF to do as they proceed, because the tip-off came through the RGPF. We have been informed because, as always in these instances, there is a medical risk or medical situation, epidemiological risk here, and therefore the CMO and his team are on alert as well for that. But with respect to manhunt, tracking down, and additional information, I would expect the RGPF to make that information forthcoming once they have that information. What I've shared with you is what has been shared with us that I believe is important for the public to know at this point in time.
Minister, can you say, did your information say whether that person was alone or they were accompanied by other persons, and possibly which port that they land? Was it Hillsborough? Was it Harveyville? Or one of the other beaches?
Information as I've given it is what I have at this point in time.
That's it, Linda?
Yeah, thanks for now. Thanks.
No, Linda, I do believe that as soon as there's more information, that it is important that we share. So once that additional information is received, it will be shared by the appropriate authority, for sure.
Callistra, you have another question?
Yes, I had the list of questions I just went over, Mike, were the same ones I had too, because this is a very worrying situation. But I'll get to the other one, which is, how will the Ministry of Health be verifying those who are fully vaccinated to gain entry into the stadium? Will health personnel, health wardens be there? Are you asking people to walk with their vaccination cards, and that has to be handed in at the entry points?
Yeah, persons are expected to verify their vaccination status, and yes, with vaccination cards, and there will be additional verification that we have, because we have a database of all persons who have been vaccinated, just in case somebody attempts to forge a vaccination card. And we are also looking at, and hopefully within the next day or two, to be able to roll out additional forms of vaccine verification, which would be in the form of a picture ID vaccination card that is similar to your driver's license, and or a vaccination app that will be available so persons can use for here in Grenada as well as when they're traveling abroad.
You have any other, Callistra?
I'm sorry, the audio. Bear with me. Did the minister say we're looking? Because at the moment, I don't think our vaccination cards don't contain a picture. Are we moving to that? Is that what he said?
We are looking at a pilot late this week, between today and the end of the week, to launch a pilot where we would have a picture ID vaccination card for those who choose to get one. It is not mandatory, but it really will facilitate individuals who want to go to fully vaccinated events. So the pilot will start later on this week. When we are ready for that, we will make that announcement so members of the public who are fully vaccinated can come forward to the designated location to receive a picture vaccination ID that will allow them or aid in them being able to get access to fully vaccinated events, as well as it will aid in the traveling should they need to prove wherever they're going to that they're fully vaccinated. And also we will be looking at a mobile app that will be used, one, for the individual to prove that they are vaccinated, but also for persons at the gate or at events to be able to prove that that app that is and that person is who they say they are and that they are fully vaccinated.
So the ID would only, the picture ID, I am assuming that people who have already been vaccinated can go in and trade in the current one for the picture ID if they so choose. Is there a cost? Do we already know what the cost is going to be for these picture IDs?
Within the next day or two, we will make that announcement, and it's not a trade-in. You would still expected to hold on to your vaccination card. This allows you to have an additional proof of you being fully vaccinated, and it will aid in the access to events should you choose to go to events that are only for persons fully vaccinated.
That's it, Callistra?
Okay, thanks, yes.
Agreed, colleagues. So we have about 5 minutes roughly. Anybody has any quick question before we hand over to the Minister and the CMO for their final comments? Any quick questions?
Yes.
Go ahead, GBN.
Just a quick question. Minister, for persons to be a part of any of the events, do they have to be fully vaccinated, or would they go in if they have just the first shot?
I thought it was quite clear, but yes, they have to be, for clarity's sake, they have to be fully vaccinated. And in our opinion, for the CMO, I mean, CMO, you can repeat it. What is a fully vaccinated person, just for clarity's sake?
All right. To be considered fully vaccinated, you must have received the second dose of your 2-dose regimen of a vaccine, 2 doses, such as the AstraZeneca that we are offering, or the Pfizer or Moderna or so on, at least 14 days or at least 2 weeks prior. So it's 2 weeks after your second dose of a 2-dose vaccine, or 2 weeks after receiving your single shot of a single dose vaccine, such as the Janssen vaccine. All right, so at least 2 weeks after the second dose of your 2-dose vaccine, or at least 2 weeks after the single dose shot, which is the Janssen vaccine.
All right. All right, colleagues, thank you so much. So we have just roughly 3 minutes. So CMO, I will give you the opportunity to make any final words that you have, and then we'll go to the Honorable Minister.
Okay, so I would just like to say that, I think we've done well so far as a people, and I think that we have something valuable here that we should, fight hard to protect. I just want to encourage everyone, the fight is not over yet. Continue to adhere to the measures to protect yourself from being infected, such as wearing of the masks, all right, maintaining distance, avoiding crowding, sanitizing, and also get vaccinated so that you are protected in the event that there's a slip up and you do get infected with this disease. So this is the advice to the public, and it is the simple advice that I want everyone to remember. All right, the fight is not yet over. We still have some way to go, and we just would like to encourage everyone to, just adhere. Thank you.
Thank you, CMO. Minister?
Yeah, just in closing, let me say, again, thanking individuals who have come forward and recognizing them, as well as those who have been helping to convince or to facilitate bringing persons to be vaccinated, and our frontline individuals who have been volunteering and working hard to disseminate those vaccines. Let me say that the vaccine clearly does not have a microchip in it. It does not have anything that is against the religion with respect to aborted fetuses or anything like that. It does not change your DNA. And if we are truly concerned about blood clots, then there is a greater chance of getting a blood clot traveling from Grenada to New York, and most definitely a 16% chance of getting a blood clot from COVID-19. 16%. The highest risk is that. And when we look at 495 persons dying in Trinidad since March from COVID-19, right next door, one of our closest neighbors, 495 persons. And at the rate by the end of today, it will be 500 plus persons dying from COVID-19. We are beginning, as always, because of our interconnectivity, learning of friends or family or acquaintances who have passed away in Trinidad. Many of us, and our hearts, our thoughts and prayers go out to them. Let us please make sure that we have all of the protection necessary before it is too late. Let us please make sure that we have the vaccine that has been available since February to our public. The people of Trinidad were not fortunate enough to have the vaccine available that early. We have had the vaccine available to our public since February, and we have been pleading with individuals to come forward, please. We are seeing individuals coming forward slowly. It has slowed down, and we do need individuals to take into consideration. As the CMO has said, the current batch of vaccines that we have will expire on August 31st, and therefore, in order to give yourself the full flexibility of having that second dose as close to the 12th week as possible, you do need to come forward and take the vaccine within the next 2 weeks. Please come sooner rather than later. We do not want to find ourselves in a position of regret because of procrastination or hesitancy. So I encourage you all to come forward, take the vaccine. We look forward to spending time, those of us who are fully vaccinated, at the upcoming cricket and at the football. St. George's University, I believe, switches on the 15th of this month to be fully vaccinated to access the campus. We welcome them and the reopening of that campus. It is an essential part of our economy and our interaction and education of our own Grenadian people as well. We welcome that. Our quarantine sites, being able to have the risk to their employees removed by having all of their employees fully vaccinated, at least first dose today, and moving forward by the end of June to the second dose. We look forward to that too, as we continue with the aid of the tool of vaccination to remove the risk of COVID-19 in various areas, and therefore being able to have normalcy in those areas. And I look forward to when we can have normalcy island-wide, because we have had the necessary level of vaccination island-wide. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And viewers, just to let you know, vaccines are being administered at the National Stadium today. It started at 9 o'clock this morning and goes until 2 o'clock this afternoon. That's via Gate B. Now, if you're going for your second shot, just ensure that you walk with your COVID vaccination card so that it can be stamped, and of course a valid photo ID. If you're going for your first shot, ensure that you have your valid photo ID with you as well. So thank you.